Imagine that on the very same day in 1720 in the city of London, two boys were born. Both healthy, both destined to live long lives. One grew to 5 feet 8 inches tall, the other only 5 feet 4. Why does a difference of just 4 inches in height decide how many children you will have, how many years you will live, and even how you will be buried? The answer is not in their genes. The answer is in which side of the street they were born on London. 1720, 6 o'clock in the morning. The city awakens. In a townhouse on the Strand, Thomas Hardwick stretches in a bed draped with Damascus silk. The fabric costs a docker's yearly wage. 3 miles away in the East End, Edward Miller has been on his feet for an hour. He sleeps in his clothes. It's warmer that way. Before you lies not simply a city. This is a machine for producing wealth and poverty simultaneously. 675,000 souls, the largest city in Europe. But this isn't one London. These are dozens of cities existing in parallel. Today we shall live through one day in the lives of two men, both born in 1695, both healthy, both hardworking, but their worlds will never intersect. Politics and power. On the throne sits George the Fern, a monarch who barely speaks English. Real power has long since passed to Parliament, and the real money to the trading houses of the city. This is an age when the pound sterling means more than a noble title. The East India Company controls territories larger than the kingdom itself. The Bank of England, founded in 1694, already dictates financial policy to the state. In 1720, the South Sea bubble will burst, history's first stock market crash. Thousands will be ruined overnight. But the system will survive. Because London is not a city of kings. It is a city of money. And in this city, a man's place is determined not by being born nobleman or peasant. It's determined by guild membership, capital, and... Thomas Hardwick was born into a family of worshipful company of drapers. This doesn't make him an aristocrat, but it does mean he is protected. Guilds in the 18th century are more than trade unions. They are closed corporations controlling entire sectors of the economy. Entry fee to a guild, $50 to $100. A laborer's yearly earnings, $20 to $30. Thomas's father paid this sum in the 1680s. Now his son has the right to trade imported cloth within the city limits. Competition is almost non-existent. The guild strangles it in the cradle. At 8 o'clock, Thomas breakfasts, wheaten bread with butter, cold veal, cheese, beer. On the table, Chinese tea at 2 per pound. Luxury become habit. His coat is tailored from fine worsted wool, buttons of brass, wig of human hair. All these are social markers. In 18th century London, you are read by your clothes faster than you open your mouth. Edward Miller wakes at 4 in the morning. Not because he wishes to, but because there are 8 people in the room, and someone is always making noise. 1 floor of a timber building near Limehouse. 3 families. Shared privy. A hole in the yard that drains directly into the nearest ditch. That same ditch provides water. Child mortality in such districts reaches 50%. Of 10 children born on Edward Street, 4 survived. Causes of death: smallpox, measles, dysentery, tuberculosis. No physicians. St. Bartholomew's Hospital exists, but it's across town, and the poor aren't particularly welcome. At 5 o'clock, Edward is already on the wharf. Work begins when the tide comes in and ships approach shore. Late, you don't work. Don't work, you don't eat. He's a stevedore. Sacks of Barbados sugar weigh 200 pounds. Virginia tobacco, Jamaican rum. The economy of empire passes through his back. Paid by the job. Good day, 8 pence. Bad day, nothing. Childhood. Both our protagonists are statistical winners. They survived to 25. Thomas survived because he was born in a heated house. He ate meat and milk. He contracted smallpox in 1702 when the family could afford a physician and care. He received variolation, a primitive inoculation where healthy persons are exposed to smallpox pustules. Risky, but effective. Edward survived simply because his constitution proved stronger. His elder brother died aged 3, his younger sister at 8 months. There was no medicine, only luck. By the 1720s, schools for children exist in London. Charity schools founded by the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge. By 1750, there will be over 1,500 across the country. But Edward didn't attend. He needed to work. Thomas completed grammar school. Latin, arithmetic, some French. Sufficient to conduct trade correspondence and understand contracts. Education is not merely knowledge. It is a door to the world of possibility. The working day, 10 o'clock in the morning. Thomas is in his father's counting house on Mincing Lane. Here it smells of ink, wax, and tobacco. On the walls, maps of trade routes. On desks, ledgers recording transactions. Every line is money. Thomas negotiates with a ship's captain regarding a shipment of Flemish linen. A transaction worth $300. His commission, 5%. £15 for one contract. The work is clerical but not easy. The day runs from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. Everything must be calculated, verified, recorded. An error means loss of money and reputation. At the same hour, Edward unloads his third vessel of the day. His back aches. His hands are calloused. By noon, he has already lifted over a ton of cargo. Industrial injuries at the docks are routine. Falls, crushed fingers, hernias, no compensation. If you cannot work, you're replaced within the hour. Average career of a stevedore, 15 to 20 years. After that, the body simply gives out. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, dinner break. Thomas walks to a coffee house on Cornhill. London is the capital of coffee houses. By the 1720s, there are over 500. These aren't merely eating establishments, they are exchanges of information. Over a dish of coffee, men discuss politics, trade, gossip. Newspapers lie on tables gratis. Lloyd's Coffee House will become Lloyd's of London Insurance. Jonathan's Coffee House will transform into the London Stock Exchange. Thomas's dinner, meat pie, bread, cheese, a pint of beer. Cost, 1 shilling, 12 pence. Edward dines at the wharf. Oat porridge he brought from home in a wooden bowl, a piece of stale bread, an onion. If fortune smiles, a kippered herring for 2pence. One of Thomas's meals equals Edward's daily wage. The difference in nutrition is the difference in health. Scurvy, rickets, pellagra, diseases of poverty. Thomas stands 5 feet 8 inches. Edward, 5 feet 4 inches. Childhood malnutrition stunts growth. 18th century medicine is not treatment. It is a game of chance with death. Standard treatment for practically any ailment. Bloodletting, purging, mercurial ointments. The theory of 4 humors still prevails. Physicians believe disease arises from imbalance of blood, phlegm, yellow and black bile. In 1721, Lady Mary Wortley Montagu will bring variolation technology from Turkey to England. The royal family will test it on 6 condemned criminals. 5 will survive. Smallpox kills 1 in 7 Londoners. The wealthy begin practicing variolation. Cost of the procedure about $5. For Thomas, affordable. For Edward, an astronomical sum. Should Thomas fall seriously ill, the family will summon a physician. Cost of a visit, from 10 shillings. Plus medicines from the apothecary, opium, quinine, various tinctures. Should Edward fall ill, he either recovers on his own or dies. There is no third option. Hospitals do exist. St. Bartholomew's, St. Thomas's, Guy's Hospital founded in 1721. But these are places of last resort. Mortality there reaches 10 to 15%. Many prefer to die at home. Thomas marries. The bride is 22, daughter of a wine merchant. Dowry, $400 and connections with Bordeaux vintners. Love? Perhaps. But primarily, this is an advantageous union of 2 trading houses. Marriage in the 18th century is a contract. Among prosperous families, marriage settlements are drawn up by attorneys. What the wife receives should the husband die. How property is divided. Who controls the business. Thomas rents a house of 4 rooms. Drawing room, dining room, 2 bedchambers. Servants, a cook and maid. Annual rent, $20. Edward marries in 1724. The bride is a tailor's daughter, works as a laundress, no dowry. The wedding is held in a tavern, about 20 guests. They live in the same room Edward occupied before marriage. Now there are 2 of them. In a year, 3. In 3 years, 5. Thomas will have 3 children. 3 will survive. Edward will have 7 children. 3 will survive. No contraception. Children are both labor force and social insurance. Who will feed you in old age? London's wealth is built upon 3 things: trade, colonies, and slavery. In the 1720s, Britain controls 13 colonies in North America, Jamaica and Barbados, trading posts in India, forts on Africa's west coast. Each year, British ships transport 30,000 to 40,000 African slaves to America. This is called the Atlantic trade. Caribbean sugar plantations produce the sweetness for Thomas's London tea. The South Sea Company, whose collapse will shake the market in 1720, held the monopoly on supplying slaves to Spanish colonies. Edward unloads the cargo of this empire: sugar, rum, tobacco, cotton, indigo. His muscles are part of the chain that transforms human suffering into profit. Thomas trades cloth from India. His counting house purchases calico and muslin from the East India Company. He doesn't consider the conditions under which they're produced. It's simply goods. In 1720, Britain's balance of trade: exports 6.9 million, re-exports of colonial goods, another 3.8 million. London is the center of this machine. Thomas is a beneficiary of empire. Edward is its workhorse. Dusk, the chasm widens. 7 o'clock in the evening, the working day is finished. Thomas returns home in a hired sedan chair. 2 chairmen carry the enclosed cabin. Cost, 6d. Walking the streets in darkness is unsafe even for the wealthy. London is a city without police. There are night watchmen, old men with lanterns and rattles. Little use. Robbery is commonplace. In 1751, Henry Fielding will create the first prototype of police, the Bow Street Runners. But in the 1720s, law is the cudgel of the strongest. Thomas sups roasted chicken, vegetables, pudding. He reads a pamphlet, political satire on the government. London seethes with pamphlets, prints, gossip. After supper, cards with friends. Steaks modest, 2 or 3 pounds, for entertainment. Edward is in a tavern, a pint of ale, a penny. Cheap, cloudy, watered down, but it's the only chance to forget. Gin is even cheaper. The gin craze is just beginning. In the 1730s, it will become a national catastrophe. Drunk for a penny, dead drunk for 2d. Taverns will write this on their signs. Alcohol for the poor isn't vice. It's anesthesia, the only way to dull pain, cold, and hopelessness. Both men are 60 years old. Thomas is alive. He's retired, living on income from invested capital, government bonds, shares in trading ventures. He has a will, drawn up by an attorney. Property will pass to his son. Edward died 3 years ago, at 57. Heart failure, simply stopped in his sleep. Body worn out, chronic hernia, arthritis, likely tuberculosis. Average life expectancy in London: for the prosperous, 45 to 50 years. For the poor, 30 to 35 years. For the very poor, 25 years. But that's average. If you survive childhood, chances improve. If you're wealthy, even more so. Thomas's funeral will cost $30. Oak coffin, funeral procession, wake. Edward's funeral, $2. Pine coffin, common grave in the churchyard. His wife sold everything they had so her husband wouldn't be buried in a pauper's pit. Epilogue: Ghosts of Inequality. The story of Thomas and Edward is not a story of villains and victims. Thomas wasn't a cruel man. He simply lived within a system that granted him advantages from birth. Edward wasn't a failure. He did everything right. Worked, married, raised children, but the system left him no chance. In the 18th century, inequality wasn't considered a problem. It was the nature of things. Theologians explained it as divine providence, philosophers as natural order, economists as market efficiency. But the numbers tell the truth. Top 5% of the population owned 50% of wealth. Top 20%, 80% of wealth. Bottom 50%, 5% of wealth. 18th century London built the foundation of the modern economy. Banks, exchanges, insurance companies, colonial trade, all originated there. But it built another legacy as well. A legacy of structural inequality, where place of birth determines life trajectory. Thomas Hardwick and Edward Miller never met. They lived 3 miles apart, but an abyss separated them. That abyss hasn't disappeared. It's simply become less visible. But if you look closely, it's still here.